So now second part, let's do function that will use it. So we need to go to player. Let's close the loot component and interactable item, where we have a use item, I think. Yeah, use item. That's a function, and here we now have a recipe. So when we click on the icon, we will go to this function, and what we need to do is just create new function, and this one we can call add new recipe. Oh, learn new recipe. In here we'll need the input, that will be type recipe, and here we can just get the recipe crafting recipes. So that's the array with all of the crafting recipes that we can craft currently, and we will add. And as you can see, this is a data table row handle. So even if you make it, you do a row name and data table, and this is a enumerator. And the way we're going to get it is we're going to convert this enum to string, which will convert it to string, but in the recipes we still have a space between words. So to remove space, we're going to do replace, and then this will replace something like a letter from this to this, and it will ignore it. What we need to do is in this first one, from, you just do one space and leave it like that. In this one you don't have to do anything. So in this one you have one space, nothing here, and it will ignore all the spaces and return the value. That one we can just plug into row name, and data table will be items dt, and it will add that row to these crafting recipes so we can craft it. Now this will work fine, but we're not checking if we already have the crafting recipe. For that we need to, probably easiest thing will be to create one more function, because we'll reuse it later. So this will be check existing recipes. In here we will do that input of string, because we have converted it already, so we don't have to convert it. Sorry, not a string, it's recipe name and string here. And then back in the learn, we will call this function here, and we can just connect this one, because we'll be comparing it with data table inside anyway. So in here we need to do for each loop from the crafting recipes, for each loop with break as well, connected, and then array element will break open, and we will check if this one row name equals this recipe name, which is already converted without spaces. And if it is, we will do branch. We need to somehow find out if it was a success, so we will promote this to local variable. This will be local found recipe. On true we will set it to true. I'll do it manually. So on true we'll set it to true, on false we'll do nothing, we'll just continue looping. But if it's true, if we found the recipe, we'll break this, because we don't want to loop anymore. We don't have to check everything if we found the recipe. And then we can return note, and we will return this local recipe found, added as pin. And this one will be found recipe, and it will return true if it found it, or false if it didn't, because false is the default. So compile and save, and back in learn recipes, we will do branch. Found recipe, this one we need to do on false. So if we haven't found the recipe, we will add that recipe. If we found the recipe, that means we'll create notify. And this one will say something like already learned this recipe or something. For now we don't have any, so we'll create notify in a second. But just connect it, and here also we can do one more notify, and this one will be already learn this recipe or something. Sorry, no, learn new recipe on this one. And this one probably can be that no spam notify that we made in the previous one. So no spam notify, because otherwise we can be clicking on the item in the inventory and it will be just spamming it. So no spam notify. All right, compile and save. Let's connect it first, and then we will create the notifies. First we need the return node, and here we also need to return, so output, and this will be success. This will be boolean, and copy it and paste it here. So here it will be false, here it will be true, because we added the recipe. Compile and save, and then go to use item. Now from the recipe we will connect it. What is it called now, the function? Add crafting recipe. I can't even see it anymore. Crafting. What have I just called it? I completely forgot. Learn crafting recipe, that's what it is. Learn crafting. Why I don't see it? Learn new recipe. There we go. And then recipe, we got item info here, so break it open. It's inside the crafting, so break that open and connect the recipe off. And then we'll do branch, because it can be success or not. If it's success, then we can continue all the way here, so we'll remove the item from the inventory and refresh inventory. If it's not, so we didn't pick it up, we don't have to do this. Compile and save. Now for the notifies, let's go to blueprints, enumerators, notify types. Already learned, so if we have it, it's already learned. Learned new recipe. Then go to notify widget, and in here we will copy this twice. So this is already, first one is already learned. So you already know this recipe, exclamation mark. And connect it to slider. This second one will be learned new recipe, and will be you have I'm just thinking, can we do have name, and if we set it, it won't mess it up. We can set a name, and that will be the name of the item we are learning. So in that case we can do append, and it will be learned new recipe, or recipe unlocked, anything you want, space after, and the B will be item name, and we're going to set it to what we just learned, and then pass it to slide notify. Compile and save. And now on the player, in learn new recipes. So here we haven't learned new recipes, so already learned, and here it's learn new recipe, and we need to set the recipe, this one from enum to string, because this one still has spaces, not from here. Okay, so from this one, enum to string, and I will convert it to name. And now we can actually test this out. So I have plate gloves, which I don't have in my crafting recipes. I'll duplicate it. Now I pick them both up, and now the first one will teach me plate gloves, learn your new recipe. Second one, you already know this recipe, so that's working fine. And now we can just fix the tooltip with the description. So for tooltip, let's go to tooltip widget, and in the graph where we're setting all the info, there's quite a lot of it here. Description text is right here, so let's give us some space. And for the description, we need to do select. This wildcard index will be if this item type, drag it here, equals enumerator recipe. That will be the selector. And now if it's false, we'll just connect description. I'll just open it here again. I'm not sure why I'm dragging it all the way across. So from item info, this one is description. What am I here? False, because it's not a recipe, so it will have a regular description. If it is a recipe, we need to append. Again, I need to just search it, append, and it will be what the description is already, teaches you how to craft. And in the second one, it will be from crafting, break it open, and recipe of enum to string. And that should be it for the description. So let's see. Okay, teaches you how to craft plate gloves, so that works fine. But now I also want to display if we already learned this recipe, because that's why we actually made a function to check it. So it will say under the description. So the easiest way that we could do is I'm just going to duplicate this box for description. So item description box, duplicate. This one will be, I'm just going to call it warning box, because we might be using it for something else later. And warning box, that's fine. And we can actually set the text manually, so the text will be in the brackets, maybe already learned, already known, I think is in the game usually, already known. And I'll change the color to red. Even though I think with my text that I have set now, it's not looking very good. I'm going to change it maybe to regular font. I'm not sure what you have said already, but it's Roboto Tiny, so I'll do Roboto. And this one, description, I'm going to change the color as well. So maybe something bright like that. And change it to Roboto as well. That's probably going to look a little bit better. Okay, and now this text, which is item description, warning box. this one text I'll uncheck as a variable. We don't need it for now. Warning box will be visibility collapsed, so it's not actually taking any space. That will be collapsed. And here warning box will do set visibility, and again we have to do select with the same selector here. If it equals recipe, if it's true, it's visible. If it's false, it's collapsed. Compile and save. Now let's see if that works. Okay, so I do have two recipes. Teaches how to craft plate gloves. For some reason, why do I have +1 on a recipe? No matter, we'll fix that in a second. Teaches how to craft plate gloves, and it's not being hidden anyway. They're already known. Alright, what am I doing? Yeah, because we are showing it on every recipe and I didn't connect this back, that's why there is +1. So this one needs to be connected, and then before this we need to move this slightly. It's really messy. Get the player reference and call check existing recipes, was it? Yeah, check existing recipes. I'm just messing it up even more. And then here we'll check existing recipes. And this recipe name will be recipe of. Oh, now we have to convert it here. I didn't think of that. Okay, so again we need to do enum to string, replace from, you do one space again, so spacebar and ignore case, and connect it here to recipe, check existing recipes. And here we can connect this selector, but that will be that will only be doing it. So found recipe, it also needs to be only shown on the recipes, not on any of the other items. So we need to do and from here. Okay, so and boolean. I apologize, I'm a bit slow with this. So and boolean recipe, so equals recipes, and connected here. That way it will only be true if both of them are true. So found the recipes and it is recipe, otherwise it will be false, so it will be collapsed. There we go. Save all. Now let's pick up some items. Okay, it doesn't show me here on the recipe. Now it doesn't show that already known. Plate gloves, go to crafting. I don't have a plate gloves here. I learned the recipe. Now this one has already known. And go to crafting. And I don't have a gloves. Okay, so it doesn't. So this one doesn't refresh. Why doesn't refresh? Crafting. Somewhere on top. Show crafting recipes. We're calling it only on construct. So show crafting recipes we need to call also when we open the crafting widget from the button. So go to interface, and when you click on crafting button, we already have some of the stuff set up. So here, show crafting recipes, We are calling all the other events, but we're not calling this one for some reason. Right. Recipes, learn the recipe, gloves. I do have now played gloves, and now all of the items are double. Because we're not clearing children probably, so crafting. Yeah, show crafting recipes. I feel like we have done this somewhere. Weapons box, armor box, and other box. All of them needs to be cleared. Clear children. Otherwise you will, once you keep reopening the crafting widget, it will just keep adding to these boxes all the items. Compile and save. Alright. Learn gloves. Gloves are here. Obviously I don't have material set up in a data table for these ones, but it seems to be working fine. And now if you like, you can actually remove all of these from the crafting, maybe leave like basic arrow, and then you will just be learning the new recipes as you find them. And just in case, if some of you didn't get it, in the loot component, you got recipes pool. So first you need to do add actual recipe to the loot table. So add these two arrays, and then in this one I'll add recipe. It has 3% chance to drop, but I'm just going to leave this recipe now, so there is nothing else. And then for the recipe pool, I'm going to do iron sword, plate gloves, and steel helmet, and I'm going to duplicate this man twice. Now this one recipe teaches how to craft steel helmet. I'll close this. This one plate gloves. This one iron sword. It's actually all three different ones. And this one I already know. It's already showing me because iron sword actually I can craft because I had it in my crafting recipes. Cool. So that is all for crafting recipes. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.